He wakes up, already knowing something is wrong, not because of what he sees, but because of what he does in single quotes no sound no movement no memory. Just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't belong anywhere living. His eyes open slowly, as if even his body is unsure it should be awake. Above him, a fractured ceiling stretches into darkness, flickering with dying lights that pulse like a fading heartbeat. For a moment, he doesn't move, because something deep inside him is screaming, "Don't." But he doesn't know why. He tries to remember his name, his mission, his past. Nothing comes, just emptiness, a hollow space where a life should be. He inhales sharply and instantly regrets it. The air tastes metallic, cold, artificial, like it hasn't been touched in years, or worse, like something happened here. Something violent. Slowly, he pushes himself up. His muscles respond, but they feel distant, unfamiliar, like they belong to someone else. He looks down at his hands. They're steady, too steady, trained, dangerous. But for what? A faint hum vibrates through the floor beneath him, barely noticeable, like the ship itself is whispering, still alive, still watching. He turns his head, and that's when the silence changes. It's no longer empty. Now, it feels heavy, occupied, like he's not alone. His eyes scan the corridor ahead, long, dim, suffocating. Shadows stretch unnaturally across the walls, broken by flickers of dying light. And then he sees them. Shapes, bodies, scattered across the floor. Not moving, not human. His breath catches, because even without memory, even without context, one thing becomes painfully clear. Wherever he is, this is not a place he was meant to wake up in. And whatever happened here was not supposed to have survivors. The silence tightens around him, and somewhere, deep inside, a single thought begins to form. Not a memory. Not yet. But something older. Something instinctive. Something dangerous. This wasn't an accident. And whatever erased his past might still be here. At first, he thinks they're dead, scattered across the cold metal floor. Twisted shapes, motionless, silent. Bodies. Too many. Too still. For a brief, fragile second, he feels relief, because if they're dead, then whatever happened here is already over. But that feeling doesn't last. It never does. He takes a cautious step forward, then another. Each movement echoes softly through the corridor, the sound unnatural, intrusive, like he's disturbing something that should have been left untouched. His eyes adjust to the darkness, and the shapes become clearer. Not human, not even close. Limbs, too long, joints bending in the wrong directions. Skin that reflects the dim light like glass, or something wet. His chest tightens, and again that feeling. Not fear. Not exactly. Recognition. But from where? He doesn't remember ever seeing anything like this. So why does his body react like it has? He moves closer to one of them. Slowly. Carefully. As if expecting it to react. But it does end. Single quotes. It lies there, collapsed against the wall. Its form partially obscured by shadow. Its surface of that skin shimmers faintly, almost translucent. He leans in, trying to understand what he's looking at. trying to make sense of something his mind refuses to process, and then it moves, just slightly. A twitch.so. Small, most people would miss it. But he doesn't, because he's already on edge. His body reacts before his thoughts can catch up. He steps back instantly, breath sharp, pulse accelerating. The silence breaks. Another movement. Further down the corridor. Then another. And another. One by one, the bodies begin to shift. Not violently. Not suddenly. But slowly. Unnaturally, like something is pulling them back from a place they weren't meant to return from. A low, almost imperceptible sound fills the air. Not a voice. Not quite. More like breathing. But wrong. Too synchronized. Too controlled. His heart pounds now. Because the realization hits all at once they're not dead. They were never dead. They were waiting. One of the figures nearest to him begins to rise, limbs unfolding with unnatural precision. Its head tilts sharp, mechanical, almost curious, and then it stops, facing him. Still, silent, awake. And in that moment, something shifts inside him, because even without memory, even without knowing who he is, his entire body locks into place with a single, undeniable truth. These things are not supposed to wake up, and yet they are, one by one, all around him. They shouldn't be moving, and yet they are, one by one. The creatures rise from the cold floor, their bodies unfolding with an unnatural precision, like something ancient remembering how to function again. He doesn't move. He can't. Because now, they're looking at him. Not with eyes he understands. Not with expressions he can read. But with something far worse, awareness. The nearest one tilts its head slightly, studying him. Its surface shifts almost like liquid under tension, reflecting the broken lights above, and in that moment his body reacts. Not his mind. Not a thought. Something deeper. Older. His muscles tighten. His breathing sharpens. His stance lowers, subtle, automatic, prepared. Prepared for what? He doesn't know. But his body does. And that's what terrifies him. Because without a single memory, without a single reason, he knows one thing with absolute certainty. He has faced them before. A flicker. Just for a second, an image cuts through his mind fire. A sky burning. Shadows moving through smoke. And those same shapes, rushing toward him. Then nothing. Gone. Like it was never there. He blinks, disoriented. But the feeling remains. Stronger. Now, the creature takes a step forward, slow. Careful. Not aggressive. Not yet. But every instinct in his body screams the same thing. Danger. His hands curl into fists, not by choice. By training. By repetition. By a past he cannot access but cannot escape. Another creature shifts behind him, then another to his left. They're surrounding him, not attacking, observing, learning, and somehow that's worse. Because predators don't always strike immediately. Sometimes they wait. The air grows heavier, thicker, charged with something unspoken. The distance between them shrinks, and for a brief moment everything freezes. No movement, no sound. Just asides, staring at each other. Strangers, enemies, something in between, and then one of them raises a limb, slowly, deliberately, not to attack, but to reach toward him. And that's when it hits him, not like a memory, but like a truth carved into his bones. If they remember before he does, he might not get a second chance. The silence tightens, the tension snaps, and for the first time, he realizes forgetting might be the only thing keeping him alive. The creature's limb stops just inches away from him, close enough to touch, close enough to kill, but it doesn't. And somehow, that's worse, because now there's hesitation, and hesitation means thought, and thought means intelligence. The soldier doesn't move. Every muscle in his body is locked, ready to react. But something holds him back. Not fear. Something else. Something unfamiliar. The creature tilts its head again, studying him with unsettling precision. Its surface ripples faintly, as if something beneath it is trying to take shape, trying to understand. Then a sound. Not from the ship. Not from the walls. From it. First. It's broken, distorted, like a signal struggling to exist, a low vibration, uneven, unstable. The other creatures react instantly. They stop moving, all of them. As if that sound matters. As if it's important. The soldier's breath slows. His eyes lock onto the being in front of him, because deep down, he knows this moment is changing something. The sound shifts, stabilizes, becomes clearer, and then words. It glitches, cuts, rebuilds. Who? The soldier's eyes widen. Because that shouldn't be possible. Not here. Not like this. The creature leans slightly closer, and then, with effort like forcing meaning into existence, it finishes. Are we? Silence. Absolute. Total. The question hangs in the air like a fracture in reality itself, because it's wrong. Everything about this is wrong. These beings, they shouldn't speak. They shouldn't hesitate. They shouldn't question, and yet, it did. The soldier feels something shift inside his chest. Not fear. Not yet. Something heavier. Something human. He opens his mouth and stops, because he doesn't have an answer. Not for the creature. Not for himself. His mind searches desperate, frantic. Name. Rank. Purpose. Anything. Nothing comes. Just that same empty void. The same silence. The same absence. Behind him, more movement. More of them. Watching, waiting, listening. Not as enemies. Not anymore. But as something far more unsettling. Witnesses. The same confusion. The same loss. The same question. The soldier swallows slowly, and for the first time since waking up, the truth hits him harder than any fear. They're not just lost, they're all the same. No past. No identity. No side. Just survivors, in a place that feels like a grave, and at the center of it all, a question no one can answer. Who are we? And somewhere deep inside him, a worse question begins to form. One he's not ready to face. What if we're not supposed to remember? No one answers, because no one can. The question still lingers in the air, heavy, unresolved, echoing inside minds that no longer have anything to hold on to. Who are we? The soldier lowers his gaze slightly. not in submission, not in fear, but in something far more fragile, uncertainty. Around him, the creatures begin to shift again. But this time, it's different. No sudden movements. No silent circling. No threat. They move slowly, cautiously, like beings trying to understand the space they exist in. Just like him. One of them steps past him. Close enough that he could strike. Close enough that, somehow, he feels like he should, but he doesn't. Because something is missing. That spark. That trigger. That reason. The hatred that should be there simply isn't. The soldier watches as the creature approaches a broken section of the wall. Exposed wires flicker, casting erratic light across its translucent form. It reaches out, touches the surface, studies it, not as an invader, not as an enemy, but as someone lost. Another passes behind him. Then another, and for a moment he's no longer surrounded. He's included. The realization is subtle, but it changes everything. Because whatever they were before, whatever they did, whatever they meant to each other, it's gone. Erased. Wiped clean. And what's left behind is something new, something unstable, something dangerous in a completely different way. A group with no past, trying to exist in the present together. The soldier takes a slow step forward. No one stops him. No one reacts. So he takes another and another until he's walking among them, not leading, not following, just moving, part of something that shouldn't exist, a human, walking side by side with beings his body still doesn't trust, but no longer understands why. The corridor stretches ahead, deeper into the ship. Dark, silent, unknown, and without a word, they begin to follow the same direction, not coordinated, not commanded, but drawn by something. A shared instinct, or maybe a shared absence. As they move, the distance between them closes, not physically, but something else, something invisible, a tension dissolving, a boundary fading, and in its place, something unsettling begins to form. Not friendship, not peace, but coexistence, fragile, temporary, built on confusion instead of trust, and yet, it holds. For now, the soldier glances to his side. One of the creatures walks beside him. Its movements no longer feel alien, just unfamiliar, like meeting someone for the first time, who somehow already knows you. And that's when the thought hits him. Quiet. Dangerous. If no one remembers who they are, then no one remembers who they were supposed to hate. He looks ahead, into the darkness of the ship, and for the first time, that doesn't feel like safety. It feels like the beginning of something far more unpredictable, because this isn't peace. This is a reset, and resets never happen without a reason. They don't know where they're going, and yet, none of them hesitate. Step by step, they move deeper into the ship. Together. The corridor narrows, the air grows colder, and the faint hum beneath their feet becomes stronger now, more deliberate. Less like a dying system, more like something waking up. The soldier feels it first. That pull. Subtle, but undeniable. Like the ship itself is guiding them. Calling them. He doesn't question it. Because no one else does. The group continues forward. Their movements almost synchronized now, not by command, but by instinct or something pretending to be instinct. Lights flicker above them. Once, twice, then stabilize. Dim, but active. Alive. A doorway appears ahead. Larger than the rest. Different. The metal around it is scorched, warped, as if something tried to break through or escape. The soldier slows down. Something inside him tightens. Not fear. Recognition. Again. Fragments try to surface, voices shouting, hands slamming against panels. Hey! Countdown. Then nothing. Gone. The door stands slightly open, just enough an invitation, or a warning. No one speaks. No one stops. They enter, and everything changes. The room is vast, circular, filled with broken consoles, shattered displays, and hanging cables that sway slightly. Even though there's no wind. The center, a single panel, still active, still glowing, waiting. The soldier steps closer, drawn to it like gravity. Behind him, the others spread out across the room, examining the ruins, touching surfaces, scanning fragments of a past none of them remember, but all of them feel. The panel flickers as he approaches, reacting, recognizing. And that's when it becomes clear this wasn't random, this wasn't luck, this was meant for him. His hand hovers over the interface. For a moment, he hesitates, because something deep inside him is screaming again. Don't touch it. Louder this time. Urgent. Desperate. But he ignores it, because the need to know is stronger than the fear of what he might find. Slowly he presses the panel, and the ship responds instantly. Lights surge across the room, systems ignite, screens flicker back to life one by one, illuminating the darkness with fractured images and corrupted data. The hum beneath their feet becomes a pulse. Strong, rhythmic, alive. Behind him, the creatures react, not aggressively, but intensely. As if something inside them just shifted. Something awakened. The central screen stabilizes, static clears, and for the first time the ship speaks, not in words, not yet, but in images, flashes, fragments, violent, chaotic, real. The soldier's eyes lock onto the screen. His breath slows, because whatever is about to be revealed is not just the truth. It's the beginning of everything they lost, and maybe the reason they were never supposed to remember. The screen flickers and then it hits them. Not gently, not gradually, but all at once. Images explode across the display. Violent, chaotic, overwhelming. The soldier doesn't have time to react because the moment the first frame stabilizes, it's no longer just on the screen. It's inside his head. A battlefield. Endless. Burning. Skies tearing open above shattered worlds. Massive structures collapsing into dust. Ships, hundreds of them ripping through space. Firing beams of light that cut through entire fleets like they were nothing. And then them. The same beings standing behind him now. But different. Faster. Deadlier. Merciless. They move through the battlefield like predators. Coordinated, precise, unstoppable. And he's there too. Not watching. Fighting. His body tenses as the memory forces itself deeper. He sees his own hands covered in ash and blood, holding a weapon he doesn't remember, but knows exactly how to use. He feels it. The recoil, the impact, the kill. His breath catches, because this isn't observation, this is experience. He lived this. The sound returns next. Screams, explosions, commands being shouted in a language he somehow understands. Even now, hold the line. Do not let them advance. They're breaking through. The memory glitches, fragments, skip, jump, corrupt, and suddenly he's face with one of them, closer than ever before. Not confused, not hesitant, but filled with something undeniable: hatred. Pure, focused, mutual. The creature lunges, and without hesitation he fires. The image freezes right at the moment of impact, then shatters. Gone. The soldier stumbles back, breathing hard. The room snaps back into view, but he's not the only one. Around him, the others react violently, not toward each other, but toward themselves. Some stagger, some recoil, some emit distorted sounds, like their bodies can't process what they're remembering, because they saw it too. Not the same moment, but the same truth. Fragments of a war, where they weren't lost strangers, they were enemies. The tension returns instantly, stronger than before. He looks around, really looks this time. And now, he sees it. Not just what they are, but what they were, what they did, what they meant to each other. The silence is gone, replaced by something far more dangerous: understanding, incomplete, broken. But enough, because now, the absence of memory isn't empty anymore. It's fractured, leaking, and with every fragment that returns, so does something else. Something buried deep beneath everything they lost. The soldier clenches his fists, not out of fear, not out of confusion, but because something inside him is waking up again. Something familiar, something violent. He doesn't want to accept it, but he can't ignore it anymore, because the truth is no longer hidden. It's just incomplete, and incomplete truths are the most dangerous kind, because now they know one thing for certain: whatever happened on this ship was not an accident. It was the end of a war they haven't fully remembered yet, and the beginning of something far worse. No one speaks, but everything has changed. The room feels smaller now, tighter, like the truth itself is pressing in on them. The soldier lifts his gaze slowly, and for the first time since waking up, he doesn't see strangers anymore. He sees enemies. Not clearly, not completely, but enough to feel it. That tension, that buried instinct clawing its way back to the surface. Across the room, one of the creatures jerks backward, its body distorting slightly, like it's resisting something inside itself. A memory, a reaction, a purpose. The same thing is happening to all of them. Fragments weren't just shown, they were unlocked, and now they can't be contained. The soldier's breathing grows heavier, because the images are still. They're burning, repeating. That moment face to face. Weapon raised. No hesitation. No doubt. Just war. He looks at his hands again. And this time, they don't feel unfamiliar. They feel remembered. Not fully, but enough to know what they've done, what they're capable of, what they were made for. Slowly, he turns, meeting the gaze of the nearest creature. And this time it's different. The confusion is still there, but beneath it, something darker is forming. Recognition. Not of identity, but of opposition, like two pieces of a broken past trying to fit together again, and realizing they don't belong on the same side. The silence stretches. Thick. Unstable. One wrong movement and everything could collapse, because now they understand the most important truth of all. This wasn't just a ship, this was a battlefield. And they weren't just passengers, they were combatants, opposites, forces designed to destroy each other. And somehow, they all ended up here, alive, together. Reset. The soldier's jaw tightens, because the question is no longer who they are. Now it's what were they fighting for. Another flicker hits him. Faster this time. A glimpse of something larger. Not just war, but purpose, orders. A mission that mattered. A reason so important. It justified everything. The killing. The distraction. The hatred. And just as he tries to reach it, it slips away. Again. Gone. Incomplete. Always incomplete. The room hums louder. The system still active. Still processing. Still hiding. Something. Because if this is the truth, then it's only part of it. And deep down they all feel it. This wasn't the whole story. Not even close. The soldier takes a slow step back. Not retreating. Recalculating. Because now there's something far more dangerous than fear in that room. Awareness. And awareness leads to choice. But choice requires identity. And theirs is still missing. For now. But not for long. Because if the memories are coming back, then so is everything that came with them. The hatred. The purpose. The war. And when that happens, this fragile silence won't survive. The silence doesn't last. It never does. A sharp sound cuts through the room, a pulse. Sudden. Violent. The central system flickers again. Once. Twice. Then stabilizes. The soldier turns instantly. Every instinct back online. Now. Every sense alert, because this time, the ship isn't showing memories, it's speaking. A cold, synthetic voice fills the chamber, emotionless, precise, unavoidable. Protocol, completed. The words land like a weight.heavy.final.no1 moves.no1 dares. Identity profiles. Removed. A pause. Just long enough to let it sink in. And then conflict. Neutralized. The soldier's chest tightens. Because now, it makes sense. Not everything. But enough. This wasn't damage. This wasn't an accident. This was done. Deliberately. Carefully. Completely. Their memories weren't lost. They were taken, erased, deleted, like they never existed. The soldier's jaw clenches, because that means something worse. Someone did this, someone powerful enough to stop a war, not by winning it, but by deleting the reasons it existed. Around him, the others react again. But this time, it's different. Not confusion. Not pain. something sharper, something more focused. Because now they all understand the same thing. They were weapons, and someone turned them off. The voice returns, unchanged, unfeeling. Hostility variables suppressed. The lights dim slightly. The hum deepens. Cognitive reset successful. The soldier takes a slow step back, his mind racing now. Not with memories, but with questions. Who did this? Why? And more importantly, why are they still alive? Because if the goal was to end the war, why keep the soldiers? Why leave them here together? The answer comes before he can even fully form the question. The system flickers one last time, and then the final line appears on the central screen. Clear, unmistakable. Phase 2. Initiated. Silence. But not the same silence as before. This one is waiting. The soldier feels it immediately. A shift in the air. A pressure change. Like the ship itself just crossed a line. Behind him, something moves. Not like before. Not slow. Not cautious. Something else. Something heavier. Deliberate. Awake. The soldier doesn't turn right away, because deep down, he already knows this wasn't about peace. This wasn't about saving them. This was control. And now, control has moved to the next stage. His fists tighten, his breathing slows, because whatever phase 2 is, they were never meant to survive it. And whatever erased their past isn't done with them yet. The ship goes dark, not gradually, not softly, but all at once, like something just took control. Every light dies, every screen vanishes, and for a moment there is nothing. No sound, no movement, no direction. Just pure, suffocating darkness, the kind that makes space feel small. The soldier doesn't move. He doesn't breathe. Because the silence is different. This isn't emptiness. This is presence. Then a sound. Deep. Heavy. Metal. Dragging against metal somewhere. In the dark. Not close. But not far enough. The soldier's body reacts instantly. Every muscle tight. Every sense screaming. Because this is not like the others. This is not confusion. This is not awakening. This is intention. Another sound. Closer now. A slow, deliberate step. Then another. The floor trembles slightly beneath it. Whatever is out there, it's big, and it knows exactly where it is. A faint red light flickers back to life, emergency glow, barely enough to see, but enough to reveal shapes again. The soldier turns slowly, and what he sees freezes him. At the far end of the room, something stands, not collapsed, not disoriented, not lost, awake, fully. Its form is different from the others, larger, more defined, less broken. Its surface doesn't flicker with confusion. It holds steady, controlled. Its posture is upright, dominant, and its head is already facing them, like it never needed to search, like it already knew. The others feel it too, the shift, the difference. Because this one is not like them. This one didn't forget. The creature takes a step forward, slow, certain, and the sound of it echoes through the chamber like a warning carved into metal. The soldier's breath tightens because something inside him, that buried instinct, doesn't whisper this time. It screams, "Run!" But he doesn't, because now he understands something far worse. Running won't matter. The red light flickers again, and for a split second he sees its eyes, focused, sharp, aware, not searching for identity, not questioning existence, but recognizing him, the others, all of them, targets. The creature stops, and then it speaks, not broken, not distorted, clear, cold, final. I remember. Silence. Absolute. And in that moment, everything collapses. The fragile peace, the missing hatred, the illusion of safety, gone. Because whatever erased them failed at least once. The soldier clenches his fists, not in confusion. Not anymore. Now it's preparation. Because the war didn't end. It was paused, and now it has something far more dangerous than before. One side that remembers everything. The lights flicker violently. The ship groans, and the soldier realizes this isn't the beginning of survival. This is the beginning of the hunt. And somewhere, buried deep inside him, something begins to return. Not fully. Not yet. But enough to understand one terrifying truth. If he remembers too late, he dies. But if he remembers in time, he might become something just as dangerous. Because the real question was never who they were. It was what they were capable of becoming once they remembered. And this time, there may be no one left to erase it again. If you made it this far, the next chapter reveals who created Phase 2, and why only one of them was allowed to remember. If this story messed with your mind even a little, hit like, because that tells the algorithm this deserves a part 2. Subscribe now, because the next chapter reveals who created Phase 2, and why only one of them was allowed to remember. And trust me, when you find out the truth, you might wish they had stayed forgotten.